All right. It's that time. It's time for Beyond Sight and Sound. Let's do this.
Are you looking for a high-quality beach and sand scoop? Are you trying to take your hunting to the extreme? How about an American-based company that stands behind their product and everything they sell? Then check out our friends over at XTREME Scoops. John has been making scoops for some time now and makes a quality beach and sand scoop to take your hunting to the next level. XTREME Scoops recently released their new sand shredder that works great in the water and on the beach. And if you're a new Equinox user, you may want to check out his Surfmaster X3 that can trap those small targets you new Equinox users are finding out there. XTREME Scoops' company approach is let's do it right. So do it right, buy it once, and go to the extreme. XTREMEScoops.com. That's XTREME scoops.com. For you bottle diggers and collectors out there, that time is upon us once again for the 2019 Little Rhodey Bottle Club Bottle Show in Taunton, Massachusetts. The bottle show is at the Holiday Inn, 700 Miles Standish Boulevard, Taunton, Massachusetts, January 13th. If you're a hardcore bottle collector, utilize their special early admission of $15 to get into the show at 8:30 and find those valuable pieces for your collection before general admission starts at 9:30 for $3. For further information, you can contact Bill or Linda at Sierra Madre at Comcast.net or call 508-880-4929 for further details. Remember, that's January 13th, Holiday Inn, 700 Miles Standish Boulevard, Taunton, Massachusetts. Caution. Please do not operate motor vehicles or power equipment while under the influence of this show. Listening to this show could cause side effects such as bouts of laughter, violent binges of cabin fever, and even dreams of silver and gold. Please be advised. Now that the fine print is out of the way, on with the show. All right, the fine print's out of the way, and it's time to roll with the show here, as we like to say. We're back and we're live once again. You are listening to Beyond Sight and Sound, metal detecting and treasure hunting radio for all the really cool digging people out there. And when I look into the chat, I see Mark's in, Nelson, Jason, the Bills, Bob, Barb, Michael, Ken, Chuck. Good grief. It's you folks are all wired up again already. Man, y'all act like we haven't had a show since Sunday or something. But anyway, we are back and we are live. Happy New Year to everyone. We're through 2018. We're into 2019 now. Hopefully it's going to be a better year for many of us. We're here on Wednesdays. We're here on Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern, always 8 p.m. Eastern. You can follow us on Spreaker, iHeart, iTunes, Deezer, Facebook, the Beyond Sight and Sound page, the Metal Detecting Beyond Sight and Sound group, Adventures in History, Ohio Relic Hunter, Dirt Pirates, Doug Life Metal Detecting, a relatively new group. Looks like they're doing some great things over there. And obviously the XP Team USA Facebook group. Still doing great things over there. And they just launched another new contest tonight. So, moving on. Links in the description. Obviously, first and foremost, the dealer of choice, the dealer we like to plug here on the show, Shooters and Prospectors, Mr. Chuck Smalley. I see him in the chat. He was posting up some finds from 2018. I see Earl's in as well. He was posting up some finds from 2018 and also has just made the post. Those that follow the Beyond Sight and Sound page saw it the other night. And now we have confirmation from Chuck, the new XPORX. They are shipping. I believe, Chuck has one spoken for already, so contact your dealers for details. Obviously, if you're a listener of Beyond Sight and Sound, hopefully you're contacting Chuck. But either way, contact your dealer for details. So we've got that link, the link to our friends over at Extreme Scoops, the link to our friends at DETECTEES. Ken and Mark doing a great job. Ken, I'm sure he has seen some of the posts. Chris, Nelson, these guys are tearing it up with their Beyond Sight and Sound shirts. I'm going to have to get me a t-shirt ordered and see if there's something about that. But first, I'm going to try my hoodie and see what that does, because obviously here in Ohio, we are chilling at 30 degrees or so. Certainly little cooler digging environment than what I would like to be in. And then below that, we've got the links to our friends at XP Team USA Facebook group. Don't forget and check out their podcast every other Friday. The Golden 60 Seconds, the recent blog post written by myself, with a little help from grammatics and stuff like that. Obviously, with the hand, I don't type so much anymore, but thankfully, Miss Tam takes care of that for me. Then below that, we've got the links to, let me see here, because I don't want to wind up botching these. We've got the links to Ancient Historical Research Foundation, Mystery Glyphs, and Ancient Lost Treasures. Those links are in the description as well, and the link to Terry Carter's YouTube channel. If you folks have not checked out his YouTube channel, you're cheating yourself. You should go and check it out. Some very well done videos. Also, he recently uploaded one that we spoke about Sunday night, when Wayne and Jim were on with me there, about the Victorio Peak. So those of you who are interested in Victorio Peak, go back and check out that one. Actually, I think he may have more than one up about Victorio Peak. We'll let him talk about that, though, because he's got nearly 160 videos up on YouTube. So we've got the link in there for that as well. I see that Paul's also joined us, so welcome to Paul. Other than that, you all can hear me ramble on any old time pretty much. But how often do you get the chance to hear from a guy like Terry Carter? Really excited about this, so let's see if we can get him in here as well. How's it going tonight, Terry?
Hey, great, Josh. Thanks for having me on. But you guys out there are a lot better and knowledgeable than me, man. I just happen to know a lot of great people and got the privilege to see a lot of interesting things. But it's not me, and that's my YouTube channel. It's not about me. It's about all the great people I've met. So,
right. It kind of documents your adventures, you could say, as well as catalogs this information for posterity.
Yep. And you said, Victoria Peak, I don't remember exactly how many videos I got on there, but I've got about, I'm going to guess maybe 10 or 15 videos on Victoria Peak, and there's some really interesting ones on there, and these all came from Dr. Oren Swearingen, who was on part of the ONFP team members for trying to get into Victoria Peak through the government and all that. And also, he was stationed at the military base there in the 50s and heard about this stuff through a friend of his, Manny, in Texas. And Manny got the some of the maps and stuffs from Doc Noss's other wife, not Ova, but from Violet. And so
right.
when he found out about this, he went out there and started tracking things down and trying to find some things. So anyways, I ended up with all his information when he passed away. And most of that ONFP team has passed away. Most of them are all gone. I think Terry Delanis is still around, but he's not in very good health. And so.
Yeah, you're right. I do believe he is still around, but he's looking at his fair share of health issues too, if I recall.
And he's had some health issues for quite a while now, and is stuck around with us for quite a while. But he's just kind of become a recluse kind of to this stuff because it just taxed him. I mean, the military and the government, man, they just beat him right down to nothing.
Run you ragged. Absolutely, yep. I would agree. And you're right, you do have a number of videos up on Victoria Peak. I found it interesting because a lot of times I've got a Roku hooked up to the TV and I'll put YouTube on there and I typed in I believe the other day I actually typed in Victoria Peak for a search, and it's just playing through a playlist or whatever, and you see this video come up and this video come up, and then all of a sudden I hear something that sounds vaguely familiar to me, and I look over, and sure enough, right there plastered across the TV is your channel art from your YouTube channel with the talking skull. And I thought, well, how about that? I know who this is, definitely. And then there a few videos later, well, here comes another video from Terry Carter. So I got to see quite a few of your videos the other day.
Well, like I say, they're not me. They're the people that have agreed to share with us and share their experiences with us, and and that to me is part of the treasure, So. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm sure you look at it the same way pretty much. Many of the people that I've been able to interact with through the hobby or through the show, they're treasures in their own. The friendships, the connections we make, the stories that they share, the information that we get to learn from one another. And it is a shame when some of these long-time treasure hunters get up there in age. If these stories aren't shared, they're possibly lost forever until somebody goes back and starts that vicious cycle all over again, researching from square one. They can save us so much time.
100%. When they pass away, the story's gone, the history's lost. I started when I started treasure hunting, I was in my early 20s. And I started meeting some of these old timers, and they started passing away on me. And I tried to remember their stories, relay how their experiences, and I couldn't do it because it was their life, their history. And so I started recording them and their story. So a lot of my videos and that are recordings that are terrible recordings. The sound quality is terrible. This was back in the early 80s and that and. Right. I wasn't planning on sharing. There wasn't a YouTube. I wasn't planning on sharing it with anybody. This was just for my personal knowledge. And I had people coming to me and say, well, hey, why don't you I know you interviewed this guy. Why don't you let me listen to it? And so, I just started sharing things on YouTube and that. But, there was so many people that I wished I'd have got to, and I never recorded their story. And I wished I would have, because there was some great stories, some great things happening that the history, it's gone now. It's gone. So,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes tomorrow never comes, and then we wind up regretting that. Like, oh man, I should have set aside time and done that.
oh yeah, yep.
And, back in the 80s, cameras weren't near as fancy as they are now, so yeah, some of the video resolution may be a little grainy or even the audio or something, but you work with what you get.
Yeah, that's all I can do is just work with what I got. But yeah, back then, it wasn't even till, I don't remember when the VHS cameras came out, but I don't think they might have been around in the 80s, the early 80s. I don't remember. I don't know that they were. I can't remember. So
well, that's like it's pretty safe to say things like YouTube and Facebook were not.
Yep.
So these have all been new avenues for us to explore and connect with and stuff like that, which has been great. Because with uploading these interviews that you've done to your YouTube channel, that's nice for you too, for reference in a sense. Because you can go back and say, well, now, that's been a few years since I've talked to this gentleman. What did he say? Or go back and reminisce, maybe, friends that you've talked to in the past.
You're exactly right. And that's one reason, man, I started recording people. Is because my memory's lousy, I'd write things down in a little journal, and I didn't do it near as what I should have. But some of the things I wrote down, I went back and looked into it, and I thought, whoa, I didn't even remember that. I'm glad I wrote that down, because that part of history would have been gone if I hadn't have wrote that down, and so,
right.
With my mind, but and then with the, you're saying YouTube and Facebook and all that. Well, it's the internet in general. Before the internet, I can remember trying to do research and going and trying to do interlibrary loans, and I could only get 3 books or 3 articles at a time, and the research was hard to do. It was hard to do. There was no Google Earth. I had to go to the Forest Service and look up their flyover pictures, and you had to put them together and look through some glass thing cross-sided to see, their flyover videos or their pictures, and just the way technology has come, the being able to just search into Google and find, man, anything you want to know, It didn't used to be that way, It's pretty easy nowadays compared to what it used to be, I know you had old Jim Farello on, he taught me a trick, he overlays some of the old maps over there on Google Earth, man, and pinpoints where these places are and goes right to them, plugs them into his phone and goes right to them. I'm thinking, wow, Jim, man, for an old timer, you got some pretty good tricks.
He is very, very keen with research and the overlays and stuff like that.
He's one of the biggest research libraries, that there is.
That's right. He does.
Yeah.
And I believe, actually, you had him on some videos a while back where you guys had went out and you had actually found a nice coin out there where you were just, it was like you were shocked. Wow, I can't believe it. It took us right to it.
Yeah, I was shocked because he took us right to an area you'd never known there was an old cabin or anything there. It was in the middle of nowhere. And, the second thing I found was that old 1873, I think, $50. And I was shocked because I do a lot of detecting in the mountains, because I'm looking for Spanish gold bars or gold nuggets or things like that, and all I ever find is bullet brass and lead, So I was real shocked to find that coin out there in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I'll bet coins come up few and far between, especially coins like that.
Yep.
Wow, definitely. So, for those who may not realize, let's step back a minute and let's let the listeners know just who is Terry Carter. How did you get started in treasure hunting? Did you just think, hey, I got nothing else going on, let's buy a metal detector?
Well, when I was a kid, I seen it was way before they found the Etosha, but they was finding wrecks off the Florida Keys, and I seen when I was just 6-7 years old, I seen a documentary on it where they was digging up, scuba diving and digging up some treasure, and that was fun for me. But I thought, man, someday I'm going to do that, but I never could do anything. Well, when I hit, I think I was 21, I went out and worked on a power plant out in the Uinta Mountains here in Utah, where I live, and there was a story of this. The Spaniards was in that area. They enslaved the Indians, they worked the Indians to death, got all these gold bars, and for some funny reason, the Indians didn't like being enslaved and being worked to death, so they rose up against them and massacred all the Spaniards, and then they did whatever it took to hide all that, their mines, their treasure, because it was bad for them, If other Mexicans and Spaniards came in and found these things and put the Indians back into slavery, mining that, so whatever it took, they hit it all up. Well, there's a vast amount of treasure, and like I was telling you, Mel Fisher was out here in the Uintas looking for it. It's rumored that some of the gold that came off the Etosha came from here in Utah in the Uintas, and that he'd found a map there on the Etosha that depicted this area. So anyways, when I heard about this, I got excited about it, and it happened to be in an area where I used to do a lot of hunting, for elk and deer and stuff. So I knew a lot of the areas they was talking about, and I'd seen a lot of things that these books that I'd read, was talking about. So I just started exploring and finding some cool things, and had my heart pumping quite a few times, thinking I found things, but it always turned out not to be something.
Oh.
Like one time, I found this old dead pine tree, and it was pretty big, and it was still standing, but it was dead. On one side, it had some markings on it. I couldn't tell really what it said, but on the other side, had 21 slash marks from way high up. Somebody had to be on the top of a horse, slashing it all the way down to close to the ground.
Interesting.
And anyways, I figured that meant 21 bears. There had to be something. So I figured out what 21 bears would be, and I stepped it off, and it took me onto a hillside, and it took me right where a boulder was, and so I tried. It wasn't that big of a boulder, but it was big enough I couldn't move it by myself, and I thought, there's got to be Spanish bars under this boulder.
Right, this boulder's hiding something.
So anyways, I rolled the boulder over, and I had to get some help, and rolled that boulder over, and I put my detector under where that boulder was, and it started beeping like crazy. And my heart was pounding. I thought, this is it, right under this boulder.
Right, it's the big one.
I started digging down, and it was all these square nails. What the heck's square nails doing under this boulder on this hillside?
Out in the middle of nowhere.
And so I went up the hill a little bit farther on. I was finding burnt wood also. I was finding burnt wood in there. Something had burned down there, and the square nails, was, pre-1900. They was 1800s, where these square nails were. They went to, I can't remember the date that they went to the round nails after, but anyways, I'm thinking this was a Spanish mission or something that got burnt down here, and anyways, I went up higher and dug down to the same level where I found these square nails and started finding more square nails. And I'm thinking, man, somebody went through a lot of problems to hide that there was a building on this hillside. And I went down to the bottom of the hill, and then I could see it. There was a row of rocks on the bottom of the hillside that was the base of a cabin. And so there was a cabin cut into that hillside. And I started detecting around the bottom there where it was more level, and I found the inside clapper to a bell. I found the hammer to a flintlock rifle, found a musket ball, found an iron arrowhead. And anyways, that was pretty exciting, but I've had a lot of experiences like that where I thought I was going to find something, and it turned out to really be nothing. But my first detector, my wife bought it for me, and she probably regrets that day she got me that. But
he hasn't been home since.
I've been gone ever since. It was just an old cheap white detector. I think it was it was the early early 80s when she got it for me, and I'd always wanted one, but she'd finally got me one, but it was just a cheap white, had just a 6-inch coil, and it was all metal. I had to dig everything, but I dug a lot. I found a lot of stuff with that detector because I did dig everything,
Exactly. That's you do find a lot of trash that way, but you find a lot of good targets that people would normally miss.
I dug a lot of trash. But anyways, because of, working in that area, and one of the guys that I worked with told me about the Lost Roads mine, that's what got me hooked, and then from there I accidentally stumbled into some things that really took off for me. I got into some records that I shouldn't have got into, and it was a treasure hunter's dream. When I seen what was there, I spent hundreds of dollars copying things, and it had to deal with I don't know if you guys know who Father Crespi is, and Juan Moritz, and the subterranean tunnels in Ecuador, and I don't know if you know, I've been working on a cave called Brewer's Cave that's supposed to have some giants in it, in stone sarcophaguses and ancient records written on copper, gold, silver, that are in stone boxes that are sealed up with cedar bark and pine pitch. I started working on that type of stuff because of these records that I got into that I wasn't supposed to get into. But that opened up the world of the ancients to me, and the reason I even got into that world of the ancients is I was heard working with another guy. He was telling me that here where I live in Provo, Utah, that there was some caves with pioneer names and dates in them. From the 1800s. It was written down in charcoal. I thought that'd be cool to see, and I also wanted to take my detector in them caves. So, man, he told me where they was at, but they was high in the cliffs. I spent 3 or 4 weekends, hiking my butt off, hiking all into the cliffs, checking all the cliff faces, trying to find these caves. And I finally found there was supposed to be 3 of them. And I finally found 2 of them, and I was looking for the third one, and I was tracking down. I was going all along the cliff faces, seeing if I could find a cave that had been covered up or something like that. And when all of a sudden I come across these neatly, painstakingly carved symbols, carved neatly into the cliff face wall, into the slate rock, And I immediately thought, man, these things are Spanish symbols. There's a treasure around here somewhere.
Right, there's something special. I might be onto something.
It was something special because I'd never seen anything like that, and trying to track down what they was. At first I thought they was Spanish symbols, and I'm trying to do my interlibrary loans to figure out what these meanings of these are, and then I thought maybe they was Aztec symbols, having to do with Montezuma's treasure. So I researched the Aztecs, and then I thought it might have to do with the Knights of the Golden Circle, the KGC, and then I thought it might have to do with the Knights Templars, and I just went all over the place trying to figure out what these were and trying to track them down. I heard that there was this college professor who had done some research on these symbols, and I finally found nobody really knew about these symbols, but there were some other symbols like these carved at 12 other locations throughout the western United States, in Colorado, in Nevada, in California.
And so now we got to travel, because I'm sure you wanted to see them too.
Oh, I did, man. I travel all across the western United States tracking these things down. And in fact, that link that you got, mysteryglyphs.com, that's the link to those symbols, that I've been tracking down. But I found that they knew of 12 of them. Well, by the time I started researching these and trying to figure out what they were, I've come up with there's 30 of these things scattered throughout the western United States, and they're in remote locations. They're off the beaten trail. And I researched that they're at least 150 years old. So somebody 150 years ago traveled by horseback across the western United States, neatly chiseling in these symbols making putting these symbols, leaving this message in remote locations where nobody's gonna find them, you know. And so in my mind, they put them there for a reason. They hiding something, or they, what are they doing with these? So that got me started into the world of the ancients and tracking that stuff, because trying to track that stuff down, I got into this university where this professor had been researching things, and I got into his private notes that since have disappeared. But that's where I found all that stuff about Father Crespi, about Juan Moritz, about Brewer's Cave, about a bunch of other stuff that I've been working on. But anyway, that's basically my start, and I just never stopped. I've switched gears every now and again from metal detecting to Spanish treasure hunting to cache hunting to tracking down the ancient stuffs, tracking down the giants, tracking down the Egyptians, things like that. So it's just been a lot of fun. And along the way, I've met a lot of great people, and I've seen a lot of things that most people will never get to see, and that's really been my treasure, just the people that I've been able to meet, the stories I've been able to hear, and things like that. So, and anything else, that'll just be icing on the cake.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and you're right. You have definitely had some adventures, clearly, from seeing some of your videos. Really got to see some of those off the beaten trail kind of things. People that or things that a lot of people may not have necessarily heard about. I know there was one video you had done that's been who knows how far back of it was like almost like a museum. I mean, the property owners keep the property open and available to the public because it is a historical location, but there's a lot of markings on that property too, a lot of glyphs and such.
Oh, that's old McConkey's Ranch there in Vernal, Utah, and that's where some of this Lost Roads mine stuff is supposed to be, in that area, And if you look at them petroglyphs, they're not your regular Indians. These things, they look like Egyptians or Aztecs. These guys are wearing crowns. They got jewelry on. They got breastplates on. They've got, them are the guys that had the gold. It wasn't the regular Native Americans. It was them guys. They had it. If there was out here they call it the Kerry Shinab, the big sacred Indian mine where all this gold is supposed to be and all that, along with a bunch of other Spanish mines with the gold bars and stuffs in it. But them guys there, man, they're the guys in my mind. If there's them, it was their guys' gold, man. Them guys had something. It's just spectacular. Those hieroglyphs or those petroglyphs. They're life size. They're pretty cool.
Well, and it even makes it more interesting, too, that you mentioned in that video, some of those you can tell they've been kind of written over. So there was an older civilization there as well.
So they were there first, and then the regular Native Americans has put their petroglyphs over the top of these ancienter looking ones, the guys with the crowns and the breastplates and the jewelries, and when you look at them, you look and you see, man, that looks Egyptian or Aztec or something like that, So
right, yeah, doesn't look Native American necessarily. And I see that they're mentioning in the chat, very interesting stuff, Terry. Thanks. And Wayne Nugget Brain, obviously, he's in there letting people know that you will be at the Watts booth.
Oh, I like old Wayne Nugget Brain. Wayne, I met him last year at one of their Watts hunts there in Mancos, Colorado, metal detecting treasure hunt. And I wasn't planning on doing the metal detecting treasure hunt. I just I wanted to go there and meet old Jim Farello. And anyways, I decided to do their treasure hunt there, at the Detectors. Wayne put on a great hunt. Man, I had a lot of fun. I'm glad I did it. And old Wayne's invited me he's got that booth coming up here in Denver at the Sportsman Show. And it's on the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, I think. And he's invited me to come down there, and I'm excited because he's got Gypsy coming and also Nugget Noggin. So I'm excited for that, and also to meet up with Wayne and Jim again. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I spoke with Jim earlier today, actually, and he was very cordial, offered the invite out to me once again, but it's just too short notice for me right now with the way I'm getting around. So hopefully I'll make it out there to visit with him one of these days, though.
You know what I'm excited about is, you know, a sportsman show like that. You're dealing with a lot of people that are out in the mountains, out in the wilderness. You know, they're off the beaten path, especially the hunters. You know, they're walking out in the middle of nowhere. They're exploring because they're out hunting, and them are the guys that run into things, but they don't think about it. They don't know, you know, what's happening. So, you know, I'm always trying to pick, especially hunters, I'm always trying to pick their brain. You know, hey, you seen any interesting things that just don't look out of place, don't seem right, you know, because they've seen things because they get off the beaten path, you know. So
absolutely, that would be a great research reference for that sort of thing, definitely. And we're not talking about some small show with a couple hundred people. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of people.
Probably hundreds of thousands of people, I'm thinking. Yeah,
I would say, you know, at the very least, probably 30,000, 40,000. And you're right, it could be well more than that, too. This is a large-scale show.
It is a large-scale show, and anybody close to Denver, they ought to come by and meet Jim and Wayne and Gypsy and Nugget Noggin, because they all got great stories to tell, and they're all great, man. I'm just going to kind of be there, man, to kind of bask in their glory.
Working the video camera pretty hard, too, I would imagine.
I don't know about that, man, but I'm just gonna go there and have a lot of fun.
Maybe get a few clips to upload to the channel.
Yeah, yep.
Wouldn't be bad.
Don't tell Nugget Noggin, man. I'm gonna ambush him and try and interview him.
There you go. Get him in a corner.
See, I already ambushed Gypsy and kind of got a little bit of an interview out of her. A little bit, went treasure hunting with her a little bit. You know, doing that show that Nugget Brain Wayne put on, that treasure hunt. So,
well, that works out quite well then. So you say you started out with an older whites. And I'm sure at some point you probably decided that you were going to upgrade, because you seem to have your hands in a little bit of everything, actually. So what was the next detector of choice for you?
So the next detector I got was, I picked the Garrett CX2 with the Bloodhound on it, because I wanted the 2-box.
2-box coil, yeah.
Oh, because I wanted something that'd go deep, because I was cash hunting, looking for Spanish gold bars, and I wanted something that wasn't going to find all the little teeny metal things. You know, I didn't care about that. I just wanted to find me the gold bars. You know,
right? I wanted the big stuff.
I learned a valuable lesson with that, because I bought it and I took it. I went down to California, went down to the beach, and I thought, well, I'm going to try this on the beach, and you know, I didn't know how to use that metal detector. I was used to the one I had was all metal mode and you dug everything. You know, I really didn't understand how discrimination goes. You know, it starts out iron and then knocks out, you know, foil and all that stuff, you know. And if you knock out, if you discriminate out pull tabs or discriminating out rings, I didn't understand that, because I hadn't been used to it. So I took my detector down there and I put the detector on the manufacturer's. It had a mark on it where you put the settings for just kind of the beginner to start out. You know, if you don't know what's going on, you just put it there and go, right, you know, metal detecting. So I put it on them notches. Well, that notch, man, discriminated out pull tabs and things like that. Well, I happened to be there, and a guy came over to me. He says, man, I've just lost my ring. Can you come and help me find it? I says, yeah, no problem. I went over that thing, man, and I never found nothing. And it wasn't till later I figured out that when you knock out pull tabs, you knock out rings, you know. So you know, a big, I don't care what detector you have, it could be the greatest one in the world, but if you don't know how to use it or you don't know what it's doing, it's worthless to you. You know, you're not going to find what you're really looking for. So I had to spend some time. I had to build me a test board and learn, you know, what knocked out what was discriminated out in what order, and now I wanted to do that. And so, anyways, and then from there I wanted to go gold hunting, so I got me a Tesoro Lobo, and then got me a Tesoro underwater detector, and I became a dealer. I used to sell and rent metal detectors for a while,
Wow.
So that was a lot of fun. I met a lot of interesting people and heard a lot of interesting stories because of that. So, anyways,
I'm sure you did. What are your machines of choice now?
So I haven't upgraded forever. And it's, I'm just thinking I need to upgrade. I'm still using the ones I've got, but I'm thinking, the detectors, that was 20 years ago. I'm sure the detectors have gotten a lot better. And since I quit,
oh yeah, they have.
Since I'm not a dealer anymore, I haven't kept up on what's what, So I'm just now thinking, I need to get me another couple more detectors. I'm thinking I'd like a pulse induction detector. Because some of the areas I go into is pretty mineralized, and even
right.
my Tesoro Lobo, I've been into some areas where it even has fits, with the mineralization. So, I'd like to get a pulse induction one, but there's several that I like. I need to get me another 2-box, so I'm just now starting to look and think, what kind do I really want? And I don't know yet what I want. So
right there again, you got to do your research and kind of make an informed choice.
Yeah, there's not one detector that will do it all good.
Right.
You can get one that'll do kind of good on everything, but I want to specialize in different things, and so I've just got to kind of do my research and see which ones that I want to really get. But I'm this year I'm going to be getting me this year real soon. I'm going to be getting me a couple more detectors, and like I say, I really don't know which ones yet. I'm still researching to figure out what I want. So man, what do they recommend out there? What do you guys recommend?
Well, we all use a number of different machines and such. Actually, here for some time, I've been using the XP Deus and the MineLab Equinox. That little MineLab Equinox is a nice, lightweight, cost-effective machine, but it's still got a lot of performance packed into it.
I've heard those MineLabs, they really punch down deep and do pretty good.
Right. But obviously, like you said, there is no one machine out there that does it all. Otherwise, we'd all be using the same thing. So it looks like you're looking at a few detectors.
I'm definitely looking at a few detectors.
Well, nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, it's just like anything else. You talk to people that fish, people that hunt game. They've got more than one gun or more than one fishing pole and different types of bait, stuff like that. Well, the same can be said for metal detecting as well.
I don't do a lot of coin hunting. However, I need to start doing that because it's a great exercise too. When I got some free time, I just need to start doing that stuff. Mainly, I'm out looking for cash, Spanish gold bars. Here just this last weekend, I was out, with a guy looking for a 2-ton emerald. That's a crazy story. I'll be putting that out pretty soon, but it had to deal with the cartel and everything else. It's a crazy story, but.
Man, can you imagine running across something like that? That'd probably give me a heart attack as soon as it was recovered. Good grief. But some of these stories, I mean, you just never know. Like with Victoria Peak, there's been too many, it's been documented too many times. There's been too many people seen it, handled it, helped to hide it, helped to recover it, move it, whatever, for it to be nothing at all. That's
There's
definitely
no doubt.
a true substantiated story.
Victoria Peak, there's no doubt in my mind it was a real story. It was there, but I think the military already got it all out, and I think the government didn't end up with it specifically. I think Lyndon B. Johnson did. And I think it's one of the reasons Kennedy was killed was because of that. Anyways, it's a wild, crazy story. And any time when you're dealing with big treasures like that, the bad element comes out, the crooks, like old Willie Duggett, him and Buster Ward, they found a big treasure, man, and pretty soon, man, they started showing off their gold bars, and pretty soon, man, the bad guys come and got them and tied them up, hooked them up to spark plug wires and all kinds of things, torturing them, burning them with cigarettes to try and get them to tell where it's at, and so anytime you're dealing with something major like that, it's not you got a lot of stuff you got to worry about.
Oh,
it's a good thing I'm just a treasure hunter, not a treasure finder, man. Don't worry about that.
Well, and with some of them too, maybe whether they found it or not, they say they didn't find anything.
That's your best motto.
Right.
And there's a lot of great stories out there, but there's also a lot of lies out there, and it's pretty tough to sift through what's real and what's not. There's a lot of stories out there that are fabricated for just give people notoriety. It's crazy. So
yeah, absolutely, and you've got to do a lot of research to try and filter out the good from the bad, so to speak, and sometimes that's for some of these people, you're talking they've invested years chasing a treasure lead just to find out that it was nothing. It was a wild goose chase.
Yep. Their whole life they invested into it. Yep. That's exactly right.
And that's got to be, I would think, that's got to be a tough pill to swallow if you happen to be on the receiving end of the wild goose chase.
Yeah, and not only that, but like I said, the bad people come after you. It's like, I don't know if you guys know who Clay Wurst is. He's one of the leading Dutch hunters experts down there in the Superstition Mountains.
Oh, okay.
Since the 40s or 50s, for sure the 50s. Anyways, I heard in 1994, I think it was, I went down to the Superstition Mountains. There was a treasure hunting convention down there, and I wanted to meet Chuck Kenworthy. And anyways, I met him. He was going to take me out and show me, how his monuments and symbol things like that worked. And we met for dinner. And then the next morning we was going to go out on the trail out into the Superstitions. And then that night he got word that his dad was in the hospital and wasn't doing good at all. So he left. So I never got to make that trip with Chuck. But he finally, it wasn't too long after his dad passed away that Chuck Kenworthy passed away. But anyways, I got to hear Clay Wurst talk then at that little convention, and it was a great story. And so I wanted to interview him. So I met with Salvador Delgadillo over there in the Superstitions, who people don't know about, but Salvador worked for all the treasure hunters down there. Hiked all the Superstitions. He's a wealth of knowledge. But anyway, Salvador took me to meet old Clay Wurst, and we talked. He wouldn't let me record him. He's 90-something years. He wouldn't let me record him. But I was grateful to Salvador to take me to meet old Clay, and we talked for a little bit, and it was great. But he was telling me how even he had some mining claims that was there in the Superstitions that was getting pretty good gold out of it, and the guys was ripping him off that he leased it to. They was cheating him, telling him that they wasn't getting as much gold out of it as he was, and anyway, it's just crazy what people do to you. So
yeah, it sometimes with some of that stuff, especially something like the Superstition Mountains, it can really bring out the unsavory element in people, and we certainly know that there have been people that have come up missing and worse.
Especially there in the Superstition Mountains.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of it's been kind of ill preparedness or their own fault, improper planning, so to speak. But But there have been a few bodies that have turned up along the way that you can clearly tell that there was foul play involved.
Yep.
Unfortunately. But
yeah, that's old.
That's
old
what happens.
Yep, old John Worst. There at the he was helping Ovanos there at Victoria Peak, and he was flying in, and they was going to get a load of gold bars and sell it for Ovanos, man, and they flew into the middle of the desert, man, and all next thing he knows, man, that they're getting shot at. So, man, they landed and hurried up and got back in the plane and took off again, man. There's a few bullet holes in their plane. So,
right, yeah. You got to be very, very careful. You just never know. So you've wound up over the years now, because you've been, you've been treasure hunting for almost 40 years, I guess. You've been very, very interested in, say, the ancients and Spanish treasure hunting for at least the last 15 years.
Well, so Spanish for, ever since the 80s, and then the ancients ever since the 90s, ever since I found them mystery glyphs. So, yeah.
Wow. So you've had the opportunity to dabble in quite a few different areas of treasure hunting, basically. Has there been any one area that you have not yet had the chance to kind of dabble in that you'd like to before everything's said and done?
Man, I'd like to found me a Spanish galleon. That would have been fun, and I had dreams of doing that one time. I had a website way back when the internet was first getting going, and I wasn't the first treasure hunting website, but I was close to there. But at the time, I had things on there. Right now, it'd be nothing because today's technology and things that's been found. But at the time, it was a pretty cool website I built. I just built it I didn't have a computer. I just had a thing called Web TV, and so I had to learn how to do HTML programming.
Wow.
A website, it was called the Treasure Hunter's Hideout, and it was just on a free site, and that free site went defunct, but somebody saved it. It's still out there, but anyways, because of that website, I got letters and emails from people all over the world, or country, wanting to know what I was dealing with, and offers. I had somebody that offered to me that they found a sunken ship off the coast of North Carolina and wanted to know if I wanted to come and dive on it. And man, I wanted to, but I couldn't get away from work. So anyways, man, I took scuba diving lessons, and I bought me an underwater detector, and I took my detector to Mexico, and I was going to find me with my detector. I didn't know anything about how this stuff works, but I was just going to go find me one, and I get out there and I get a dive master to take me into the area, and he sees my detector. He says, whoa, man, you can't be, this is a national park area. You can't be bringing this here. And so I never got to do it. But the last night I went, and that was off the coast of Cozumel. I went to Cancun, and my cousin says, well, let's just take it out on the beach before we leave in the morning, to fly out. So I took it out on the beach. The very first thing I found was a 1-carat diamond ring. That's the only thing I found with my underwater detector.
Well, hey, that was worth the trip right there, though.
Yeah. But anyways, anyways, that was worth it. I gave it to my wife. Didn't go with me. I brought it home, had it resized, and gave it to her. And she says, if you bring me home presents like that, man, you can go anytime you want.
I'll bet. Yeah, that one's definitely a nice one. She's probably going, wow, I kind of struggled with, man, why did I buy him a metal detector? But now I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Yep. So that would be fun. Of course, I'm getting a lot. I'm 62 now, but that would have been fun for me to dive on a wreck, to be involved in finding some of them gold coins and, the Spanish doubloons and gold bars and silver coins. And, that would have been kind of cool, but I don't know if I'll ever get to do that. But that would have been something I really would have liked to have done. And then the other thing is, this Brewer's Cave where there's these giants, I think I'm right where it's at. It's just a matter of getting the right permits and digging and all kinds of things to see if I really am, just because I think I know where it's at doesn't mean I do, but I think I do, and in this is supposed to be two giants in stone sarcophaguses, and in these giants, they've got breastplates and gold crowns and giant swords, and inside there's these stone boxes with these ancient plates on them with writings in them, and when I first found out about this, when I got into them records I shouldn't have got into, I started tracking everybody down that had something to do with it, and I found where this guy who had found this, he found this in the 50s, and a lot of things happened. His boy ended up dying. They ruled it suicide, but he figured it was murder, and because of all that, he and all the people pestering him, and the bad guys came after him, captured him. Was burning his arm with blow torches, trying to get him to tell where it was, and he escaped. And anyways, when all that happened, when his boy died, he blew the whole thing up and said, "Nope, I made the whole thing up. It doesn't exist." Well, he'd given one of these boxes with the ancient records in it. It had 5 copper plates in it with writings on it and some pictures on it. And this box was wrapped in it was a box made out of stone. It was wrapped with cedar bark and smeared with pine pitch and then covered with mud, so it looked like a dirt clod, a big dirt clod or something.
Wow.
Well, he brought that out and gave it to this professor, and this professor gave it to another guy to have some testing done up, but they really never got much testing done. Well, when I went through all these records and started tracking all these people down, I found out that this box existed and found out who had it. And so I went and had it carbon dated, the Ancient Historical Research Foundation, and there's a reason I started the Ancient Historical Foundation, because if I broke into something like this and it was real, I'm nobody. I needed credentialed people, so I had scientists, I had archaeologists, I had money backers, all kinds of things like that. But anyways, we had it carbon dated, and the place that carbon dated it, they figured it was a fraud, because there's not supposed to be anything like that in the Americas here, and so they expected it to come back modern. Well, they carbon dated the bark is what they did. And when it came back, the date come back at 2500 BC, and they didn't do that, so they thought they screwed up. So they ran the test 10 different times. They ran the test, and 10 times it came back 2500 BC. Well, at the same time, they was running some carbon dating tests on some other things that was coming back a lot older than what they thought they should. So they got checking into it. And the things were screwed up. They used their machine was calibrated for one solution, and they was using a different solution, and their machine wasn't calibrated for that new solution. So when they recalibrated everything and ran all the tests, it came back, the final real date was between 50 and 350 BC. When that date became known,
that's still very impressive.
They ran the test 10 times. That told me this story had to be real. This tomb with these giants, with these stone sarcophaguses, which shouldn't be here in the Americas. So.
Right, but when you've got an object like that, there has to be some substantiating value to the story.
That soon as I got that information back, that's when I started putting all the clues together and went looking for it, and I think I found it. There was some clues. This guy that found this cave, his name was John Brewer, and the reason he even found it himself was he was an arrowhead collector, and he was for the county fair. He was and this back in the 50s. He was building a bust out of Indian arrowheads. He'd take all these arrowheads that he found, and he was building a war chief with the Indian feather bonnet on, and he didn't have enough arrowheads to finish building this thing, and he wanted to enter it in the county fair, and the county fair was coming up. So anyways, I asked around to anybody knows where he could find some more arrowheads. Well, this old boy told him where, there was a cave that had some in, so he went up there and he digs around and he starts finding arrowheads, and then he's digging deeper to find more arrowheads, and he starts finding these stone steps, and he's digging down. These steps are taken in, and they take him into a tomb where there was a death trap in there and all this stuff in there. Anyways, he finally, the long story short, he got enough arrowheads to finish the Indian bust. He finished the Indian bust and took it to the county fair. Well, there was a lady there, Maud Cox, who went to the fair and seen that bust of the Indian out of the arrowheads, and she commented to her neighbor, "Man, did you go to the fair and see that Indian bust that guy made out of the arrowheads? Man, that was pretty cool." And it just so happened her neighbor was the guy that told her were arrowheads. And so he was all proud of himself. He says, "Yeah, I told him where to get the arrowheads. It's over there by the..." And I'm not going to tell you what that is, because that was what that is. So anyways.
Nice.
So I figured where this thing had to be, and I went hiking around, and I found the. And so I dug around, and I broke into a small cavern. And inside that small cavern, I started digging down and against one of the walls, digging down, and I started seeing smoke stains coming up from the dirt. And I got down in, and I got down far enough where I could see a small crack where there was a small tunnel, but it was all filled in. So I dug down farther, and I started finding somebody's old tools. This was back in the 50s when Brewer dug his cave, and he used candles. He dug it in candlelight, I started finding the old candles and everything, and I found that crack. So I got a push-pull camera and a little video push-pull camera and shoved it in that crack to see how far it went, and it looked pretty interesting. So, I started digging down. Well, it was extremely tough to dig and keep hidden up and all kinds of things like that. So I also found a map that old Brewer drew of the inside of his cave, and it showed that he filled in that original tunnel because he was worried about other people finding it. Well, I also ended up with his journal, part of his journal that he had on this when he was doing digging and everything. So he filled that in, and there was when he was in there was a shaft that went up, but it never came through the surface. But he said it looked like a chimney for a fireplace or a furnace for working metals or something. So anyways, he went up above and started digging down and broke through in that chimney. So he dynamited the one area shut that he was using, which I think I found, and he started using this shaft. It was a 30-foot shaft, and it would drop into the room. That way he could cover it up with just some boards, and then put a couple feet of dirt on top of it and go from there, So anyways, I was looking for that shaft because that was going to be my easier way in, and it's taken me a long time because of work, because of working out of town a lot. But finally, I got a ground penetrating radar up there last year, and we found the shaft. On penetrating radar. So whether I've really found this cave, whether there's really giants in there and ancient records, I won't know until I break into this shaft and see. And I'm just waiting. Hopefully, this spring or summer, we'll start working on that. So
that has got to be a very exciting time for you. I'm not even sure how you can contain yourself. I'd be chomping at the bit. Man, that's going to be a great adventure. Hopefully it turns out well, though. Hopefully you find out that the research paid off.
Well, we'll see. Like I say, I think I have where Brewer's Cave is. But that's just me thinking until it's actually broken into and verified. It's just me thinking. But that's what I'm thinking. So I'm gonna work on it until I can get in and verify. Because like I said, I found the clues. I found the tunnel. I found a shaft. And as soon as I break into that, if it's what I have, it's what I figure it is, I'm going to be videoing it and bringing my archaeologists into it. And the plan is to, there's all these stories out there that the government and whoever, the archaeologists, they're trying to hide all these giants and ancient records and all that. And I'm thinking that doesn't make really any sense to me, but it's one of the reasons I started my YouTube channel. I thought, well, if they're really trying to do that, the way to get it out fast is on YouTube, and the only way to make that happen is you got to have a big channel. So I figured, well, I got to grow a channel so that when I do find something, I can release it to the public so they can see if it's real or not. Why the government would really hide this stuff is beyond me. If they really do, I don't know, but there's a lot of people out there that say they do, so we'll find out.
Well, the channel is definitely growing. You're over 17,000 subscribers, if I remember right.
Yeah, I am, and that kind of blew me away because I really never expected that. In the beginning, it was just, some of my friends says, hey, man, I know you did the interview with this guy, share it with me, but they lived out of town. I didn't have anywhere to share it, and YouTube was an easy way. And then, I started the Ancient Historical Research Foundation, and in the beginning, it was just a closed group. Nobody could belong to it. And I had a lot of people saying, hey, we'd like to be a part of you. How do we belong to that? And so finally, I just kind of opened it up to anybody that wanted to be in, and I'd put on these monthly little guest speakers and invite people to come and speak to us. And I was getting people saying, man, we want to come, but we live far away. So I started videoing them and putting them on YouTube. And then just one day, man, I checked and I said, oh, wow, man, I got a couple thousand subscribers. That's crazy.
Right. So, look at that. Who would have thought? Nice. Well, it's definitely went well, and you've picked up quite a number of subscribers and had the not only the opportunity but the privilege to meet some really wonderful people in your travels.
Oh, I've met a lot of great people, and that's what my channel is about, is all these great people. Because I'm a nobody. I have my adventures, but man, there's people out there that got a lot better adventures, a lot better stories than me, and man, my hat's off to all them guys,
Right.
And there's a lot more out there that I'd like to meet, a lot I haven't even heard of, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Out of all of those opportunities that you've had, the people that you've interviewed, does any one just kind of jump to the top of your mind of, wow, I was really glad that I was fortunate enough to have that opportunity?
Oh, there's a bunch of them, Jay Golden Barton, who traveled met with Father Crespi. I don't know if you guys know who Father Crespi is, but in Ecuador, he was the priest down there, and I think it's the Pima Indian. I don't know what Indians it is down there. Anyways, they would bring him artifacts that were made out of solid gold, made out of all different kind of, it looked like old world artifacts,
Wow.
And anyways, Jay, man, it was great to hear his story about that, and I wished I'd have recorded his story about meeting with Juan Moritz, though, and their expeditions into the jungles there and trying to find the subterranean tunnels there, and Juan Moritz says that he found this room in them subterranean tunnel. And Neil Armstrong, man, the British put together an expedition and had Neil Armstrong on it, the astronaut, and Juan Moritz was going to lead him in there, and then at the last minute he changed his mind because he overheard him saying things, and they was going to do things that he didn't want him to do, and so he didn't take him. So they wandered around in them subterranean tunnels and never found anything, But man, I would have loved to go on an expedition like that,
Oh yeah, what an adventure in its own, right there.
There's several of them, That one, is one I was interviewing old Captain Steve Choupet. When he was telling about, him helping overthrow the government there in the Philippines, I guess his wife's family was part of the people that was trying to oust Marcos, and, hearing his story, and I had it recorded and everything, and I've lost that, and that was a treasure because he's gone, and I've lost that, and, they're just, I can't really pinpoint one because there's so many great stories in different, this Salvador Delgadillo, him with this 2-ton emerald and the Colombian Emerald Cartel, and They're just so many. The guy, I told you I used to rent and sell metal detectors, and I had this kid. He'd come to my house and rented a 2-box from me, and he took the whole summer off, man. He had wife and kids, and he took the whole summer off to go treasure hunting up in the Uintas, and he wouldn't tell me where or why, other than that his uncle found a big treasure, So he'd rent this 2-box from me. Well, man, he did get a divorce over the whole deal, but from his wife, because she didn't like not having money coming in to pay the bills and stuff. So he didn't think he should be out there, in the mountains. He should be working instead of making them starve, But anyways, he never would tell, but he'd bring back pictures and show me pictures. I found this, and he'd show me pictures of markings on trees that he'd taken pictures of, and I had a lot of people coming to me and sharing me things, and them markings on the trees, other people had showed me them. So I knew exactly, the area he was at and everything. But anyways, I just kept his information, and here probably 3 or 4 years ago, and this was back in the 90s. Well, here 3 or 4 years ago, I contacted him because I kept his information. I says, it's been 20 plus years, you willing to share what you guys was looking for? And he says, hey,
right.
My uncle stumbled into a cavern that was lined with gold bars. And so I says, man, did you guys ever find it? He says, we never ever did find it. I says, man, care if I talk to your uncle? So he gave me his uncle's phone number, and I contacted the uncle, and the uncle told me that he was out deer hunting, and there were snow drifts across. He was in the mountains, and there were snow drifts across the road, and he busted through a couple of the snow drifts. But then there was one he couldn't bust through, so he parked his vehicle, and he went for a little walk, and he seen this little hole that didn't really look like a gopher hole or a coyote hole or anything. It looked kind of different, so he grabbed a stick and shoved it down the hole, and it went straight down. And he got too close, and it broke through, and he fell into this cavern.
Whoa.
And in the cavern, he got looking around, and he says it was like somebody had a lantern in there. It was light in there. And he got going in there, and there was a hole in the ceiling way up there, and the sun must have been just right where it was shining a light through that hole. And it was lighting up that thing in there so he could kind of see a little bit in there,
Right.
He's seen in there all these, he thought they was bricks. And he's thinking, man, why is somebody stacking bricks underground? That didn't make sense to him, I thought it was crazy. Anyways, he's trying to get out. He's starting to go to get out, and he's trying to claw his way out of there. And as he's going, all these bricks are lined across the wall. They're 4 feet wide. They're clear to the ceiling. 8 feet tall and 20 feet on one wall, and they're on another wall. And anyways, he sees one that's kind of, all of these are neatly stacked, and he sees one that is kind of cocked. It's crooked on the pile. So he goes to grab it to straighten it, and he goes to pick it up. Man, it's heavy, and it's just a little bar, and it's way heavy. So he picks it up and turns it over, man, and it's gold. These things are solid gold. So he puts it in his pocket, and he starts climbing out, and he says something, a voice came to me and said something, that you're the richest man in the world, but you're going to lose everything, your family, everything, and he's bowed out, and it got so strong that he stopped and put it back. And he crawled out, got out. Typical story, crawls out, and he gets halfway to his truck, and he thinks, that's stupid, man. I'm going to get them gold bars. So he starts to go back, and the feeling comes to him again. So before he left, he hit it up, the hole up, Anyways, he goes home, and he thinks, that's crazy. I'm going back. Well, a big snowstorm hit. You can't get into the area for the rest of the year till spring. So spring, he goes back, and he can't find it. And he spends 3 or 4 years trying to find it, and he can't find it. So he finally tells his brother and his nephew about this, and so the nephew's the one that's rented the 2 box from me. And I'm thinking to myself, originally, it'd be hard for me to believe that story. I guess I've never had any spirits or anything tell me to leave it alone, but
right.
For me to, I guess that means I've never been close enough, So anyways, but it's hard for me to imagine that, but it's also hard. So the story, just because of that, the story's hard for me to believe, but it's also hard for me to believe, why would this guy
spend that much time up there?
Let his nephew take the whole summer off from work, knowing that he's in trouble with his wife and is not paying the bills and all that, to help him search, if he didn't believe they was going to find it and they would be taken care of, and they never ever did find it.
That's really got to make you wonder.
So if it hadn't been for the nephew, knowing the nephew renting the detector from me, not working for the whole summer, knowing his wife, if it hadn't been for that, I'd have blown the story off as not real. Anyways, so there's some interesting stories out there, that are like that, and whether they're real or not, who knows, but it makes for some good adventures and great stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the very least, you got to give it that credit. It is a great story, and you've shared a few great stories with us tonight. Man, you're a pretty good storyteller yourself.
I'm not near as good as some of these other guys, I don't articulate well. I got the personality of a rock, man. If you kick me a little bit, I might roll around and laugh a little bit.
Well, apparently, if we get you on a topic you're passionate about, you can roll right along. Well, we've definitely kept you on for quite some time. I don't know if anybody's had any questions for you or not. I guess we can give them a couple of minutes to call in if they'd like to ask you anything. I'm sure somebody's dropped the call-in number in the chat. Otherwise, it's up there on the page, or it's 419-549-5744. But I guess while we're giving them a minute to see if anybody wants to call in, why don't you go ahead and cover the links that we've put in the description tonight that you provided me, and where people can find you.
So, my YouTube channel, if you just search for Terry Carter Treasure Hunter in YouTube or Google, it'll take you to some of my stuff, on my site, and look for the pirate, that's me. And then other than that, I've got, the foundation I started. It's a nonprofit organization. I don't really do anything. It's just in place in case I happen to find something that I need the archaeologists and stuff for. It's called the Ancient Historical Research Foundation, and it's at ahrfoundation.com or ancienthistoricalresearchfoundation.com. And then the website about those mystery glyphs is mysteryglyphs.com. And we've had a few setbacks, and Ancient Lost Treasures, we had the forum Ancient Lost Treasures, and it was a pretty big forum back in the day. It'd get 1 million views a month, and there was a lot of great information on there. But because when Facebook started, a lot of these forums have kind of died off, but there's a lot of information on that ancient lost treasures, and but my partner, White Eagle, passed away here about 3 years ago, and when that happened, he was the tech savvy guy, kept all the web pages going, kept the forum going, and since he's passed away, things have just kind of slid, so it's just not what it used to be, but the information out there is still pretty good on there. So
right. And we do have a caller. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, Terry. Hi, Josh. This is Chris Heimsoff.
Oh,
Chris.
Well, then, first off, I guess, let me apologize. I saw you trying to call in earlier, but your number was, it's not a number I've noticed before. It's coming up kind of funny on my end.
That's okay. I just wanted to say that, first, I'm really enjoying the show, and man, Terry, got some interesting stuff. I hate to say I haven't seen your YouTube channel, but I'm going to be subscribing and checking it out tonight.
Well, thank you, but it's not me. It's everybody that I interview. They're all the stars. They're all the heroes, and I thank them all for sharing their stories with us. So.
Well, back when you were talking about the carvings and all those carvings across the Southwest, it brought to mind a story a arrowhead hunter told me, and this is the guy that taught me how to use divining rods, and he would read log cabins and things like. He was just a real interesting guy. But he told me that, this was before I was metal detecting, he was telling me about these French and foreign silver coins he would find when he was digging and sifting in caves along the rivers. And I'm talking in Missouri, Arkansas. And I said, well, like all stash of coins? And he said, no. He said, it'll just be a single coin. And he said what that was the French surveyors would come through, and they had to be able to prove that they had been to these locations, so they would bury a coin in a cave, and then they could always say, I was at that spot, you can go to this cave, and you can dig back in the back wherever, and you'll find that coin to prove that I was at that location. I thought that was kind of interesting.
That is interesting. Because there's been a lot of ancient things not from here that's been found. You know, there's been Egyptian artifacts found here. There's been, you know, coins like you're talking about. There was an old Chinese-looking coin that was found near one of these mystery glyph sites there in California. And near one of these mystery glyph sites in Pocatello, Idaho, there was, in 1918, this young girl found this rock that was the size and shape of a chicken egg, and it had some markings on it. They just figured they were Indian markings. Well, for whatever reason, that girl kept that rock all her life and never thought anything of it. But when she got older, she was diagnosed with cancer, and she was dying. And her great granddaughter happened to be there visiting her, and she was rummaging through stuff, and she found that rock that looked like a chicken egg, and she gave it to her great-granddaughter. And the great-granddaughter kept it all her life because it was something special given to her by her great-grandmother before she passed away. Well, she was in the dentist's office in the 70s when King Tut's tomb was making its round through the United States, and she was in the dentist's office, and there was a magazine article put out by the Smithsonian, and it was on King Tut's tomb, and she got noticing that some of the markings on King Tut's tomb was the same markings that was on this egg that her grandma had given her. So she went home and looked, and sure enough it was. Well, she took it to the University of Berkeley, and they authenticated that it was a piece of alabaster that came from Egypt, and it had King Tut's high priest signature on one side of the rock and the cartouche of his name on the other. And this was found in 1918. Well, they never even broke into King Tut's tomb until 1922. They didn't know anything about King Tut till 1922. You know, there's all kinds of things out there that's found that's like that, you know. So
that's amazing. I know exactly what you're talking about. A good friend of mine found a small stone. I've had it on my Facebook page several times that had what looked like a South American condor on a pile of stone, and it's really carved nice. I have it on my Facebook page. I'll try to put it back on my page again later today or tonight if I remember it. But
yeah, I remember it. I want to see that.
I took it to a university professor from the University of Missouri. He asked the people if he could take it and have it analyzed, and they said yes. A year later, he said that they didn't have enough money to have it analyzed. We can't get it back from him. He claims that he's lost it, or that it was his house was broken into and it was stolen.
Oh,
and the last time I sent him an email, he wrote back a real nasty email telling me to cease, desist with my harassment of him over that piece. He went into this diatribe about how he missed Christmas and his wedding anniversary because he was so sick looking for this thing for us.
Terrible.
Yeah, it was bizarre. So the owners are real nice, and they were like, just forget about it. It's gone.
Wow.
And you had me on the edge of my seat there for a minute, Chris.
Terrible. You know, you got a lot of interesting things back there, you know, and that, you know, I don't know if you guys know about Burroughs Cave. You know, he was working with Russ Burroughs on that. He was going to take the Ancient Historical Research Foundation into his cave, and then, you know, then he claimed it collapsed in, and there was a few things happened. He told us a few whoppers and stuff, but but I still think there might have been possibility that a little bit of the story of Burroughs Caves might be true. Some of it I think was forged and frauded, but there might have been a little bit of it was true. So, but there are long waterways there,
Can you spell that, Terry? What's the name of the cave?
Burroughs, Burrow, Burroughs Cave. Man, it was some incredible artifacts that were found, a massive amount of artifacts. So,
I'll have to look that up. Thanks. I'll get into that tonight.
Yeah, I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see upcoming posts from you if you head over that direction with your Beyond Sight and Sound shirt.
Hey, I'll put that little piece talking about on your page, Josh, so people can see it on the Beyond Sight and Sound page.
Yeah,
it's
do that.
Really
I'd like to see that. That out of place archaeology. I like looking for the Spanish gold bars and the things like that, but I also like out of place archaeology. The things that they're being found that just shouldn't be here. And I like why are they here?
Right.
All right. I'll get off the phone and let someone else get in if they are. But thanks a lot, Josh and Terry. Terry, I really enjoy it. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Chris. And I can see, too, in a sense, much like with the artifact that Chris was talking about, I wouldn't put it past, anyway, some of these museums and institutions to intentionally try to cover it up because of the fact that some of these things could force the history books to be rewritten, and some people don't want that to happen.
Oh, yeah. So I just contacted here a couple weeks ago by a guy that ended up with a bunch of artifacts that came out of a cave, that it's not your regular Native American Indians. It's something more advanced, more civilized, more, there was clay tablets with pictures and things on them, and these were found in the 50s. And anyways, he came up with the story in the newspaper article, and I got to get out there to meet him and do some things with him. But they was given, they reported it to the government. There was a newspaper article on it. They gave some of these artifacts to the Denver Museum and to the Peabody Museum, and this is back in the 50s. Well, you go and try and talk to them about this stuff, and man, they don't know what you're talking about. Have no clue what you're talking about, and these are elaborate pottery pieces that have pictures. It's not your regular Native American. This was an advanced culture that had this stuff. And anyways, there's a lot of stuff out there that we just don't know about and has been reported, but it's just been forgotten about.
Right, yeah, I can see that. And we've got Jim Ferriello on with us. How's it going, Jim?
Jim!
Hey, guys. Hey, you know something? Terry, when I met you, it was great. But really topped the cake off is when I met you and your grandson. That young man, I have the highest respect and admiration for. You have a wonderful, wonderful grandson, and he is, in my book, number one man. He is a character. I love him.
Yeah, my grandson, he was at age 11. Somebody made a homemade firework out of a 4-inch pipe, 18 inches long, and he filled it full of black powder and lit it, and it turned into a pipe bomb. And just as he lit it, my grandson was riding his bike and turned around the corner, and that 4-inch pipe flattened out and hurled through the air and hit my grandson in the hip and blew his leg off, except for the butt cheek of his flap of his butt cheek, and destroyed his hip, and his guts was hanging out, he was in a coma for a month, and didn't expect him really to live, and he survived that, and then they didn't expect he'd ever walk, and today, by sheer determination and that, he can walk. And so he's kind of been my hero for just having the determination to not be stuck in a wheelchair. He was bound and determined he was not going to be stuck in a wheelchair. He threw his wheelchair away and walked on 2 crutches, and then threw away 1 crutch and walked on 1 crutch and then threw that away and went to a cane and then threw that away and started hitchhiking, from shoulder to shoulder. It'd hop from one person to the next person, holding on to their shoulders, getting around. Now today he can walk, and doctors don't know how, but, and so, and I know, stories like that, touch my heart and that. And I know, Josh, you got a similar story, man. And that's why, man, you're kind of my hero, Josh. So, but Jim, it was great meeting you, Jim, man. I learned a lot. I had a lot of fun, man. I want to do it again, man. And
well, Matt, that's
I can't
why you're
wait
coming to the show.
Yep, I can't wait to see
You're
the show.
a big part of it.
And Jim, man, is a wealth of knowledge, man. He's a wealth of knowledge.
Yes, he is. I'm very fortunate to have known Jim for a few years now, and definitely a friendship to treasure.
Well, we're gonna have some things going this coming year, God willing. Josh, you're gonna be involved, and definitely Terry. And it's up to the man upstairs. Just pray everything is up and above, because the nation is hurting, and there's so many people, unfortunately, trying to just destroy the president that we have. And I think he was a godsend that without him, we would really be in some serious trouble. So he's, I think, a second chance that God says, let's give America a second chance. So hopefully everything goes good, and we will see you, Terry, at the show, and we expect great things from you this upcoming year, and I know you will not let us down.
That means I'm going to lean on you pretty heavy, man, Jim, so I don't let him down.
Right, yeah,
right.
talk about the pressure being on.
Hey, I'm getting older, and I'm on my last leg, and my wife says, you're burning the candle at both ends. I said, oh, yeah, okay. So in time, I'm going to
Man, I don't think he's on his last leg, man. Jim was out hiking me, man. And I don't know how much older you are than me, Jim, quite a bit, man. He was out hiking me. I was thinking, man, I gotta get in better shape.
Right, got to start working out.
I did. I joined a spa down here, going to a chiropractor, but I'll tell you who ran in circles around us is your grandson. Oh my God.
And
all right, guys,
that's
let
awesome
you go.
in its
Terry,
own.
see you in a few days, and you'll be staying, I believe, here at my house with I think
Gypsy.
Nugget Brain's going to have his big camper out here. Yeah.
Cool.
I got Gypsy here, too, so.
Cool. It's going to be a lot of
we
fun.
wish you the best. Oh, definitely. And I have a feeling we're going to at least see 20,000. They estimate at 40,000, but I think in our booth alone, we should be able to make some really good contacts. And you're right. These guys are outdoorsmen. A lot of them have metal detectors. A lot of them do not know how to use them, and they have them, and they're not being used. This will give us an opportunity to show them what it is and what it can do.
Awesome. Man, I'm excited, Jim. I'm excited to be with you again.
Oh, you're my bud. Same to you, Josh, boy.
Well,
we'll
thanks,
see you.
Jim. We'll see you. Thanks for
God
the
bless.
call.
Thanks for calling in, Jim.
All right, kid.
Well, I would say because a live show is something that's a little bit of a new beast to you, but I'd say you handled it just fine.
Well, I don't know about that, but thank you. I'm not seeing the comments, so.
Well, the comments that I was seeing was very good. Well, I guess we've definitely kept you on here longer than we had planned or expected or anything. So if you've got something else you'd like to add real quick, we'll go ahead and let you do that. Otherwise, I'll have you hang in there with me and we'll get out of here.
All right. No, I don't think I have anything except for like I said, man, Josh, man, I'm glad I finally get to see you and meet you. And I hope to get to meet you in person one day, because your story too, kind of touched my heart, and you're kind of my hero too. So, man, thank you for all you do, and thank you.
Well, thank you for taking the time. You have been just an absolute pleasure to have on. Shared some really wonderful stories, and it's been a blast. I'm sure, we probably could have even covered a few more stories, but that leaves the door open to have you back again sometime.
Okay.
All right. Well, hang in there with me for a couple of minutes, and we'll get out of here, Terry.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so obviously, Terry Carter, you can check him out on YouTube. Check out the other links there in the show description as well of the websites that he had provided. Really wonderful information, really wonderful guest. I've just had a blast. Hopefully you all did as well. If you'd like to hear him back sometime, who knows, maybe if I ask real nice, we might be able to get him back again sometime in the future. Shoot me a message and let me know. Otherwise, I think we're going to get on out of here. Don't forget, though, we've got Relics Radio coming up tomorrow. Loy and Jeff always put on a great job over there. So until the next time, folks, we're going to roll. Have a wonderful evening. Take care.